Hello, everybody. Welcome to this special Christmas love meeting, bringing the year to a close. If we'll just take a minute now to have a little reflect, perhaps have a little breathe into the base chakra. Take a few breaths to settle. And let's have a think about what sort of year it's been this year and what's going to be coming up next year. So here it's a beautiful day. I think we can start with a few gratitudes for the wonderful day that we've got at the moment, the sun, the company that we have, the fact that we can all meet up. Let's just fill our hearts with gratitude for the friendships that we've made this year and for the connections that we've had, the physical meetups, the experiences we've had. A lot of us have had a lot of different experiences, especially with the general. And I think also gratitude for a little bit of a lull, a little bit of downtime when we can gather our wits and reflect on things. Let's just say thank you for those who have helped in any way to keep us in a state of sanity, really, knowing that we're not alone, knowing that we're all in this together. Okay. And just have a reflection on those who are no longer with us this year. Thinking of Dee Sunshine and thinking of Brian and hoping they're enjoying their new journey. Sending out our best wishes to them. Okay, and sending out our love and best wishes to those who, for whatever reasons, have had a more difficult year. Thinking of Zenko, Roger. Rachel has also had a challenging year. And anyone else that we know. Okay, let's bring ourselves back into the meeting. So, well, I personally think this has been a generally slightly bumpy year, pleasant in many ways, surprising. We had the general, which I think was an incredible experience, a real learning curve for me. I didn't realise how much importance people placed on Westminster or on MPs and how seriously they took all that. So that for me was very surprising. And I think that was, it's probably something I think a lot of people, most people should probably try once in their lives just for the experience. And it's a great way of getting information out as well. So that was my key reflection this year for us. Let's go around and see what everybody else has come up with, how we've progressed, where we've got to. So I'm going around the screen. I've got Chris next on the screen. Chris, have you got something that you would like to say? Something that you have learnt from?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed helping you that day in West Bridgford Lane. I
Thank
found
you.
it
It's
very
great.
positive. I think you made a small impact, but a profound impact, I would say, judging by the people that we were talking to on the high street. I wish we would have had longer and campaigned a bit more, and I think we would have had more of an impact then and would have driven the message across that people are sick of mainstream politics. We're sick of the mainstream media and we want a different direction. And I just feel that we just didn't have enough time. I don't know what you think personally in that respect.
Oh, and that deliberately so, wasn't it? I think we were given the minimum of the 6 weeks notice, and I think most of us thought Sunak would hang on because he was at the lowest point. But now, you know, as soon as he called it, it was easy with hindsight that this was a baton handover and everything was
Oh,
set
well,
up.
the WEF actually called the election, didn't they?
Yes,
We
absolutely.
we
It
know
was a
how it
baton
works.
handover. We could see it was a baton handover as soon as they called it, because it was clear that this was the worst time for the Tories to stand a chance. So they would never have done that if they weren't expecting to do a straightforward baton handover. And they certainly wouldn't have wanted to give people like us any chance to get momentum. I think they were probably a bit. They probably weren't too worried about reform. I think they're equally controllable. So we've got. Yeah, I think you're right. It was. We could have done with more time. We should have seen that one coming.
Definitely, but it was good to see the positivity from a lot of people on that one day. And you just knew people had had enough. Most of them had voted Labour just because they were fed up with the Tories. And in the last 6 months since Stalin has been in power, people are basically facing up to the fact that politics is dead in the modern sense. It just needs a complete revamp. And I think we will push that, and eventually, it may take a few years, but eventually we are going to get that message across, and it's going to have a fundamental, huge impact on everything in our society, and it's what we need. So we've just got to keep pushing, Lynn, haven't we? See where the energies take us next.
Yeah, Paul was interesting the other day. He said, people say, because you know, some people in the village say they keep thinking you're resisting. You don't resist. You just ignore you just ignore it and ignore the rules, ignore everything. I was like, yeah, you're right. There is in many ways there's no point actually resisting. It's a bit like sort of belly flopping in water, isn't it? It tends to push back rather hard, whereas if you just sort of slide under it, you can go where you like.
Just put the blinkers on and pretend and keep shaking your head.
Well, I certainly don't do that. I just sort of go, nah, I'll see it as guidance. See laws as guidance, and if it's wrong, it's wrong, and we just have to deal with it when we cross the line. So, okay, thanks, Chris. Julie, I've got you if I go around the screen.
Well, I wasn't expecting to be next, but yeah,
on my screen, I'm going like this, and of course on your screen it'll all be in somewhere different, won't it? I'm pointing at you.
Yeah, I mean, when I reflect back on this year and what it's been like, the positives that I would get are the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Now, hopefully I've said that word incorrectly, because I was corrected by someone on that, and the England Cooperative, and the contact I've had with them is that we need to continue with patience and endurance, not overly rush things, so that we get a more solid foundation than we would if we tried to overly rush it, even though my ego side of me would love to be rushing a little bit more than I am doing. I went up to Scotland the other Saturday when they established the Scottish equivalent, the ALBA, and I didn't really know why I was committing to going up there and back to near Dumfries in one day, but I did, and I'm very glad I did. So I got up there for the beginning of the meeting, and they established ALBA, and they also, I left before they got the people registering as not registering, recording as members. Apparently that's what we should say, not registering. But it was lovely that some of the England Cooperative board were there, and so I got to hear the presentation again from the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and I need to keep listening to that so that I can understand it better, so that when I'm talking to other people I can understand better what I'm saying to them. So that was a big commitment, but it felt right, and I'm just going with the flow of what feels right at the moment. I'm very glad that we continue to have the Love movement, and I'm surprised Roger isn't here, because I know he was going to be joining us, but I'm glad I continue having the weekly meetings with him, though I do apologise, Conrad, we didn't have it on Thursday last week. We had one on an evening instead, and I hadn't let you know about that, but apologies for that. But please do reach out if ever you think we're meeting, or just to ask if we are. But usually we'll meet on the Thursday at lunchtime. But sometimes people can't make lunchtimes at all, so we decided to go for an evening one just to let other people be able to join us. So yeah, thank you for everything that everybody's doing, and I'm glad to have Chris in my life physically as Stand in the Park and that sort of thing, and their free thinkers sessions that him and Heidi do in Nottingham are really, really good. And also the Charles Coves international meetings that I go on Sunday nights and Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock till 10:30, that everybody is welcome to. And there's some very interesting discussions on those, so I'm glad I commit to that. Okay, well, I think that's about it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Absolutely unstoppable. You seem to be everywhere. Okay. I've got DL next, who I don't know who it is, and I can't see them, but if you'd like to speak, DL, then by all means come on camera. Oh, there we are. Oh yes. Oh, here's Roger as well. How lovely. Hello. Do you have anything to say? I should know your name by now because you've done this to me before. I can't remember it. I'm so sorry. Sorry?
Daniel.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah, nothing to say really. Welcome, Roger.
Hi, Daniel.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say today really.
It's been a year, hasn't it? It's like, I don't know, I feel like I've aged 10 years with all the stuff that's been going on. But November was manic with meetings, you know, going from one meeting in the morning to another in the afternoon. There's farmers meeting, farmers rally, a couple of demos, one outside County Hall with a big placard and a tractor against solar farms. And then we had an interesting conversation with some teenage schoolboys that walked past, and of course they're with the net zero agenda, so we kind of enlightened them a bit, and they were quite interested. And then we had another little demo tractor against the inheritance tax outside the cattle market. And then we went into the cattle market because there was a local solicitor was actually giving some helpful information to farmers about trying to lessen the impact of the the tax, the inheritance tax. Anyway, that aside, and Time to Wake Up Cornwall meetings, the 7 concerned citizens, that's quite that's Devon and Cornwall, and that is quite interesting if anyone wants to look into it. I won't go into any details because there probably isn't time. But basically, one of the things that they were saying was about this battery storage for solar, for lithium batteries, and how they are not putting the concrete walls around them as they should because they're cutting costs, and the fact that it's, you know, a safety angle, and it could be very detrimental. Well, it would be very detrimental to people living, residents nearby. I've had some stuff back from Albion. I think probably some of you have as well. Some paperwork, which is very good. Continuing with the CABI meetings. And in addition to that, I have written a song called Grannies Are Revolting, and it's about the winter fuel allowance. It's not political, and I hope I won't be challenged on it, but I would like to record it. And it's not just me, it's also our little Crazy Hat theatre group that I started up a couple of years ago. And I didn't know whether it was suitable, Rachel, to put on your Telegram channel. I'll have to find out how to do it, or unless you want to preview it first to see if it's, yeah. I don't quite know how to do that. Would I email it to you, or?
Well, could we preview it on the Love Movement group before it goes on the other one? Would that do enough, Rachel?
What next?
Well, we could use all channels to promote it. I mean, I
I'd
could put
say
it on
on
my
us.
YouTube and on Rachel Speaks Out, put it on Love. Yeah.
Yeah,
don't
but
see
if we do
anything
it
that
on
would be
Love
unsuitable.
Movement first, so that because she wants us to do a quick look at it first, I think.
We haven't recorded it yet, and with Christmas coming up, we've just done a few run-throughs, but hopefully January
Cool.
we'll get that sorted.
We don't mind an informal version either.
Well, I haven't got my guitar with me at the moment and stuff, but yeah, it's I mean, it is kind of humorous, but then there's a kind of message, serious element there as well, which hopefully, you know, it won't get picked up as something subversive or misinformation, or I won't get a 15-year prison sentence, blah blah. So yeah, now the other good thing is that there's in Falmouth there's a new independent greengrocers has just opened up, a greengrocer's shop, and down here we have quite a few butchers, family fishmongers, and lots of farm shops where you can get your grass-fed milk with no Arla stamp on it. And I feel very blessed living here because there is so much good food available. I'm aware of the fact that there's a lot of people, for example, where my family live, Wiltshire, Hampshire, there's not much choice. But Bowler Hat Farmer has got the Food Finders hub, which I'm sure you're aware of, and that you can click on and find. I've been emailing that to everybody, so that they can find their own farmers market or farm shop or whatever they need, because it's becoming really crucial, isn't it, to try and stay healthy and not go to supermarkets. And as Katie Hopkins said, yes, he said the government would have us, in one of her podcasts, the government would have us chewing on the arse of an earwig, which I thought was really funny. And it kept me laughing all evening, just visualising it. So that is probably, I mean, apart from our stand in the park. Oh yes, and one incident, a friend of mine was in hospital having radiotherapy, etc. And her sister was looking after her child, and some thugs came round and they wanted to change her meter from analog to smart meter, which she had refused to do for a long time. I don't know all the circumstances, but my husband went down there because he got a call from Ashley's sister, help, and then we had various other Team Dave on the phone, and because they couldn't get there in time, and one other farmer came along to help. But basically they said, well, we can break the door down, because they called the police. One of the meters, the gas meter, was outside, and they've broken the casing for that. And I don't believe that anyone is allowed to touch that except for the electricity or gas provider. And they said, or they could turn the supply off, and then charge her £3,000 for reconnection. So in the end, it was decided that we would let one female officer in to check the electric meter, and she found some minor fault with it and said it was dangerous and that they had to change to smart meters, so they put them in. But because of the fact that Ashley was in hospital and there was a child in the house, we decided that was the best option, other than having people try and break the door down. But I mean, that was just, what a crazy world we live in, don't we?
Just pure bullying, isn't it? Pure
Yeah.
bullying.
Yeah.
So hopefully she can get that
Yeah, I mean, she's not in a position to. We've
mean,
been support.
I think on principle, you could probably refuse a smart meter just from the fear of the radiation.
Yeah.
As long as you don't say dogmatically, oh, it causes health problems. You can say, I have a fear of health problems, and apparently that is acceptable. Whereas,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, well, apparently that's the case with protesting 5G phone things. Anyway, the fear of health issues is a valid reason, whereas whereas saying there are health issues with it is not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because they'll
or the
have
perception or the fear, and so yeah, it's just there's a lot of really silly things, isn't there? But that just sounds like pure bullying. I would definitely be taking somebody to court over that.
Some people, some individuals can be ultra sensitive as well to the ultra low frequencies that they emit. So there's an excuse there. It's actually medically provable, that is, that you can be susceptible to ultra low.
Well, again, the fear tends to be acceptable, and the medical stuff tends to be disputed. So,
well, I think it's kind of irrefutable, because there she is having all this treatment for cancer, and you know,
they've got a smart meter.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, they were not interested that, you know, the householder wasn't there, that she was sick and all the rest of it. They just completely, like, not even human.
That's incredible, isn't it? That's yeah. So we were they really are just trampling over everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't see how that can even be legal, let alone lawful.
Well, it's not, but you know, but anyway, that was quite a traumatic event, and you know, we've been supporting her, and we've been to hospital. She's out of hospital now, but she's an amazing person. I have to say this, her aura is so strong. She's so determined. She's doing a lot of alternative stuff, massive alternative stuff. And I'm absolutely sure she's going to get through it, and she's going to get there, which is great. The last thing I just wanted to say was, does anybody watch Paul Wallace and his podcasts? No? Oh, okay.
I'm trying to watch as little as possible, actually.
Oh, well, this is really, really positive stuff, because he was a preacher for 33 years, and then he started looking into Bible translations, and it got very interesting. And he has other experts that he interviews, who, you know, are conversant with Hebrew and Aramaic and all the languages. And it's surprising how the mistranslations started with the King James version, and how he's gone back to the original texts. Even the Tower of Babel, if you translate Babel, it means Stargate, and you're like, whoa. Yeah.
Oh,
and
Carrie, I've got to just
anyway,
say, you've gone down a similar route to me. I've been listening to all sorts of stuff about the Sumerians, and you know,
this is what it's all about. And
amazing, because and then they start to look at it in the context of the Bible, and it's far more literal than we are taught.
It will blow your mind. I mean, I've been studying theology for about 40 years, and I did part of my degree in it, and it was really interesting. But you know, it brings in a lovely interdimensional understanding of where we're at now, and what we should be doing on a spiritual level, which I find very interesting. Because last night we watched 5 hours of Paul Wallace, and every time it was just, whoa, this is amazing.
Wow. Okay, so that sounds like one for us. Perhaps put it in the group for us, Carrie. Well, I'll try and find it, see if I can.
Yeah, and then if anybody watches anything of his, just let me know what you think. So yeah, thank you, and I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And
thank you, Carrie.
Let's stay optimistic and positive.
Right.
And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Carrie. You're always very informative. You've always got so much news. Now, Conrad was next, but Roger's got his hand up. Roger, have you got something that you want to say?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to bring people's attention to the atrocities which are going on in Palestine. You can't just say Gaza. It's the whole of the Palestinian territory. I found a video today, which is a report on the atrocities. Now, put that on Telegram, and I urge people to watch that to really understand the horror, the absolute horror. And it's difficult for me to understand how the Israelis are allowed to get away with this systematic industrial murder. I just don't know how they're getting away with it, you know. And the international so-called bodies that are supposed to be protecting people from genocide, they're doing nothing. It's just going on daily, day after day after day. Little children, women are being murdered. And
Yes,
I just,
Israel and Palestine has been a real, let's say, a source of a shame, really, and a real. I think the Israel-Palestine situation highlights exactly what the international bodies are for. They clearly are not for the people at all. A lot of them are run from Israel. Palestine does not even have a seat at the UN. It's an observer because Israel, you need unanimity for a nation state to become part of the UN, and Israel will not give it. So Palestine only has an observer status. They don't even get a voice. So I think we can safely say the UN and the WHO and all that are completely irrelevant in terms of looking at the international stuff. But I'd be careful at looking at the horrors if I were you, because remember, a lot of this is orchestrated. We are on this the powers that be, if you like, basically see us as one big loosh factory. They love it when you're outraged. They love it when you're fearful and horrified and all the rest of it, because those emotions are something that they absolutely, powers that be, maybe even interdimensional aspect of it, whatever it is that is controlling this shit show, feeds off this negative energy. So know that they're happening. By all means, they're in our consciousness. We can't really, and I certainly wouldn't want to ignore them. But you know, definitely don't let yourself go into those lower dimensional feelings. You know, just visualize how you want it to be, how we're going to have it. The Israel-Palestine issue has been highlighting for a long time just who's running this show. And I think, you know, a lot of it does come from Israel. It's the belly of the beast, isn't it? It's one of the control centers of pretty much everything that's gone on. A lot of the false flag events seem to be orchestrated from there. The CIA seems to be an outpost of it in many ways, or they're feeding each other one way or the other. The American deep state system and Israel very much seem to feed each other. We know that Israel sets up a lot of the groups that are supposed to commit atrocities against Israel. They can create their own opposition. Yeah, it's a really sad situation, and it's been there from what I've been looking at. There's been this element there for a long time, though people actually have coexisted very peacefully there until relatively recently. But the control center seems to have been there for a long time. There's obviously something very strange about Jerusalem, whether it's a big energy center or some sort of portal or whatever. I have no idea. Does anyone have any idea on that?
Well, it was supposed to be where the three main Abrahamic religions sort of like come together. The prophets, weren't they? Abraham, Jesus, who was the other one? I forget. It may have been Muhammad. All came to, or were they all supposed to converge at the Rock of the Dome or something? Is that what I read? Is that true? And that's why it's sacred to all three religions, apparently.
Yeah.
Must be
I just wanted to say something positive, and that is, we can help the Palestinians by refusing to pay whatever taxes are within our discretion, and council tax comes to mind on that one, because we are actually, not me personally or you personally, and I know one person, a prominent member of this group, is withholding tax. So that's a positive thing that you can do, is withhold whatever taxes that you can, because I can't obviously prove it. I haven't got the information in front of me, but it's well believed that the Consolidated Tax Fund is funding weapons that are going to Israel, and certainly the RAF is flying out of Akrotiri to do reconnaissance for the IDF. So that's been reported publicly. But I take my hat off to all the people who are withholding council tax, because that's really the only positive thing that we can do.
And also, I think we have to make sure that we keep our own energy positive and separate ourselves from the UK government. They are not us, and I think the more we can get that out to everybody. I mean, I think if COVID did anything, the COVID fast did anything, it highlighted that the people of the world have quite a lot in common, and the governments have a lot in common with each other. So, but actually, the difference is not between, say, us and Russia and you know, the UK and USA. The difference is between the governments and the people. That's the big separation. So they are doing their thing, you know. We, you know, they're not representing us. They don't represent anybody. I don't think they represent themselves, their corporate bosses, whatever, and that's the same in every country. So now what we're finding is that pretty much any country you talk to, there are people like us, a lot of people, and a lot of people who are not saying anything, who have no connection with the government whatsoever. They don't see them as legitimate rulers or rulers. They don't see them as legitimate, not even legitimate managers. It shouldn't be there. The people and the government have parted ways, and we just have to wait for that to play out. Or it is playing out, and I don't know, you know, the end point will be very interesting. Yeah. So thank you, Roger. Thank you for that. I've just got to go and answer the door. Conrad, if I can come to you, I'll be back.
By the way, I think the Ethiopian Bible is the original Bible.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll step in while the door is being closed. I first of all, greetings from this incredible, beautiful part of the world, the south of Devon. It is an incredible day. My tree branches are dancing. Last night, when the wind died away and the moon came up around about midnight, I was able to hear the surf on the beach down below. And I'm just so grateful for the environment in which I live. I'm also incredibly happy to hear that so many more people are beginning to bring up the parallel systems that we need. We have Albion. We're very strong down here with CABI, the Community Assemblies of the British Isles, with John Gilbert and Sue Cartwright doing wonderful work. And we had a meeting in Newton Abbot, which is just 20 odd miles away from me, the other day with the other community assemblies. So it's growing, and I do feel this is incredibly important that we start to bring in these parallel systems, and we need to start working them as soon as possible, because as somebody has already said this morning, or this afternoon, should I say, that it's time to just forget that government exists. Yes, I know we have to be in the world, but not of it. So of course we need to be aware of it. But I do congratulate everybody that's moving towards the parallel systems and working the many that are happening. This is absolutely wonderful. While I'm still talking, I shall wish you all, I think a lot of people enjoy this funny season. Not my thing. I'm a wonderful, warm, loving Christmas Grinch. So I just stay away from all that sort of stuff. But hopefully 19, isn't that interesting? 2025, I think it's going to be a powerful year. There's going to be a lot going on, especially from the 21st of January, I believe, is something. A lot of people are saying things are going to happen there. Lovely to see you all. Lots of love to you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Conrad. That's really nice to hear. So yes, I think exactly what you said, that we've got to just realize that whichever country we're looking at, the people are not the government. It's very clear now that we've basically got to do our own thing and do everything, not our own personal thing. It's actually very hard to be completely self-sufficient and totally independent, and not very pleasant. But as communities, we can provide everything that we need, everything. So there is no need for a government outside of an immediate community, and hopefully that's the way we'll head. So obviously there's going to be some pushback at some point, that, you know, there's a lot of people with power that aren't going to give it up easily, but I think the cat is out the bag now. It's just riding the wave until we hit, until we hopefully gently land on the shore. So Rachel, I think it's you next.
Thanks, Lynn. And yeah, thanks for bringing in, when you did a summary at the beginning of the year, and thanks for bringing in Dee Sunshine and Brian, our kind of lost love members.
Our representatives on the other side.
Representatives in the higher dimensions. That's really, yes, it's yeah, sweet to be reminded of that. And yeah, it has been a really intense year. I mean, obviously, it's been like a double-edged sword. For me personally, it's been like a double-edged sword, because I absolutely don't regret the whole of the political thing, standing for election 3 times, twice for local council, once in the general. But on a 3D level, I mean, it's been absolutely devastating in terms of like everything I've had to sort of withstand. But on the other hand as well, it has delivered me a complete sort of life reset, actually, in that, so everything's got to, every cloud's got a silver lining, hasn't it? And I'm totally agreeing with what you're saying, Lynn, and others about I'm really, really seeing this, really, really getting it, that it is a metaphysical machine, and it's like, it's designed to trap us. It's like a giant reality show. And one of the things that brought it home to me, I had a one-to-one client the other day he kind of booked because he'd been following me since the beginning, and he was really in quite a state of dissonance because of trying to work it all out. Is Trump a good guy, or is Trump a bad guy, and who's behind it all, and is it Israel, and da 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 da. And I kind of like, we had this sort of, we were exploring this, and it was kind of like Who Shot JR? If you remember Dallas, like they started out with soap operas, didn't they? So you had Coronation Street, EastEnders, Dallas, Who Shot JR, you know, and because he was saying like, was Trump really was it a real assassination attempt, or was it fixed, or was it a fake, or blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's just like Who Shot JR? And it's like they tried it with soap operas, and then they moved to reality shows, you know, like Big Brother and the celebrity get me out of here thing. And now it's like the entire false matrix is like a giant reality show that is constantly producing content to grip our focus and our energy, and to feed it with this like outrage, fear, anger. And so, so actually the antidote is, as Conrad said, it's absolutely, yes, to be aware of the shit show and all of the entrapments, and to be consciously aware and to spread the awareness of what they're putting in our food and the chemtrails, but equally to focus as much energy as we possibly can onto visioning, imagining, creating, co-creating the world we do want. From a metaphysical point of view, where focus goes, energy flows. So I do feel that this is really important. And I'm noticing with me and my friends, lots of people I talk to, they're creating a different world, a different way of being, but then you kind of get sucked back into the lower vibrations. And it's very seductive, and it's very easy to get sucked into your Telegram and doom scrolling and everything. Really important to notice that and to just move away from it, go into nature, disconnect and meet real people as opposed to online everything. And as you say, try and find local sources of milk and food and establish those relationships. It's quite funny because where I am now, there's a little greengrocer, and I went in and I said, "Are your lemons genetically modified?" And he said, what does that mean? I said, well, for a start, do they have pips in? Because that's a good, because if you go to Aldi and you buy a lemon, you notice it doesn't have any pips in. And my son won't eat anything that's genetically modified. And he's like, "Mum, these lemons have got no pips in." So the greengrocer said, "Let me cut one in half." And he cut it in half and it was full of pips. And he said, and I said, "Okay, great, I'll buy some and I'll buy that one." He said, no, have it for free. And I had to explain what genetically modified was. And it was just really sweet just to interact with a real person in a real shop full of organic-y vegetables, and just to have that kind of experience that isn't in a supermarket where everything covered in plastic, like cucumbers and whatnot. So yeah, I do feel that the two, there's a separation. It's almost like two parallel worlds are forming, energetically and in the 3D, where all of the people who are consciously aware are gathering and co-creating and coalescing. And I said it on the People Speak Out. There's something that Marianne Williamson said. It's like during the Renaissance, it wasn't like one movement where everyone knew everyone else. It was organized. It was like the impulse to create the new and people inspiring one another. It just created a wave that made the old obsolete. And I just really feel that like we're at that stage now. It's like a parting of the ways. And so the more we can focus our energy on what we do want and just not feed the shit show energetically. I'm not saying put our head in the sand and ignore what's going on, but let's focus our energy on the things we can change, we can create, because realistically, we can't do anything about Netanyahu, except for vision and imagine and co-create something different in our own little corner of the world, really, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, what I think the problem with focusing on things like Israel, admittedly, we know crap happens, but if you think about before TV or something, if crap happened, it stayed in that area. Only the people directly affected knew about it and were emotionally involved with it. Now they're able to spread that all over the world, and everybody who sees it has the emotional response as though they were there. It's a massive loosh amplifier.
Yeah.
Having it on TV and social media and everything, it is massive. It means that they can, with one murder have we've seen it with Madeleine McCann or something like that. The whole nation, or one death like JFK or Diana or something, the whole nation can go into this response.
Yeah.
And they have this massive wave of loose energy. And it's quite interesting that there's some, and I wish I could remember, I think it was Greg Braden I was listening to, talking about a science centre that was measuring background vibration. And they don't know what they're getting, they don't know what they're picking up, but they're sorry, my dog is just being such a nuisance. No, you're not cleaning yourself on here, he's licking his bottom right in your faces. Sorry, it's really off-putting. So I've just kicked him off now, he'll be back. So yeah, that when they have these big global events, any global event actually, they do pick up a background change surge. Bye, Julie. Thank you. Julie has a client has arrived. We have to let her go. This background change in vibration, that a surge in whatever it is, and they don't even know what they're measuring, but they're measuring something. And it happens when you get things like the Twin Towers and death of Diana, and also it's obviously going to happen with all the things you see in Ukraine and Israel. You know, unless we really, all we can do is pray that these people ascend to the great infinite or whatever, the people affected, and there's very little else we can do. And you know, it doesn't really benefit us to wallow in other people's misery unless we're actually going to go and do something about it, which, let's face it, we're probably not. It's not our business to do so, actually. But
I just want to
we're
say,
going to do that, we do not need to go wallowing in other people's misery.
I just want to say, to think of it like storylines in a soap opera. So the storylines are getting more and more bigger and outrageous because they are losing the attention of the people. So that's why they're having to go for these big, and the Trump thing and the whole assassination and Israel and blowing everything up, and because they're losing their audience. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to stay off what I'm coming to think of as the mainstream alternative media, which is the sort of permitted alternative narrative. Which is obviously we're still tend to be pretty shadow banned on everything that we say. But if you're just going to go on and moan about things, then you can go on there, and that's fine. And you can just that's acceptable because you are in your own way generating some loosh.
Yeah, like Neil Oliver is a great example. He just constantly, whilst I love him, he just talks, he says the same thing every video.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, all these other people, they're basically having a good moan, which doesn't really help. We've got anyway, there's something else that cropped up that I really wanted to just share with you. I've been investigating other countries and the benefits of living there, having travelled a little bit and gone, you know, and there was a great story in the Mail of all places. A friend of a friend, very awake, unvaxxed and all the rest of it, who's travelled the world, basically sold up her house and travelled everywhere. She's gone to 168 countries, and she was talking about how very safe the world is, and how, you know, obviously if you listen to the media, and this is what I've been saying for a while when I've gone abroad, is that, you know, if you listen, you'd never go. I mean, when we went to Seville, it was like, oh, floods, oh, terrible things, oh, disaster, you know, catastrophic rainfall. Well, we had a little bit of rain, and, you know, it wasn't catastrophic at all. It was absolutely, it was just a little bit wet. But really, this whole agenda of keeping you in your little box and not letting you expand and everything. But going around the world, it's quite interesting. So having looked at Vanuatu and their citizenship acceptance letter says, speak up, be heard, say what you've got to say, and be ready for what other people have to say. Get engaged, because this is your country now. So that's what you get if you go to Vanuatu. And it's quite, I thought, oh, I wonder how long I'd be there before they change that to comply. It's brilliant. But there are other countries, even other governments are not they're not all in lockstep. They're not, you know, there are a lot of people who are wanting things to be different and looking for a different way, which I think is great. Now I've got 2 people with hands up. So Roger, can I come to you?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
This is a leaflet. I know you can't see it, but I'll describe it. It's from the English Constitution Party, and I put their website on the chat. It's English Constitution Party.com. Anyway, it's on the chat, and I've for years been looking for a copy of the Constitution, and that's it, because in there are all the laws which make up the Constitution. Of course, the Constitution is not one document, and a lot of people say there isn't a Constitution, which even includes Lord Jonathan Sumption said there's only a verbal one. Well, it's rubbish. No, it's there. And if you go to that site, you know, and contact them, there is an email that you can use to get some of these. You know, I recommend that you get a few and distribute them. And one of the main points, or one of the main laws, is the Magna Carta 1297, not the original one, not the 1215, because that was a contract between the barons and King John. But the one that was produced in 1297, which was assented to by Edward I, is actually encapsulated in government law, and that still exists. But most of the clauses have been redacted. But the main ones, there are 4 which are left. They are the important ones, and the foremost of that is trial by jury, which is clause 39 of the 1297 Magna Carta. That's the most important thing that we have, because that's the only thing that protects us from despotism. Now, the reason it's taken me so long to arrive at this is because I was believing that I should be looking for the UK or the British Constitution. Well, those 2 so-called organizations, they don't exist. This is the English Constitution, not the British or the UK, because those are just legal fictions. They don't exist, but England does.
Okay.
And so if people would like to get a copy of this, they can get it from EnglishConstitutionParty.com. I really do recommend you get it and publicize this. You see, it's so confusing because, you know, people will say, oh, the Magna Carta doesn't apply anymore. Well, it never did, because it was only between the barons. Oh, what's happened? Oh,
So we can still hear you, Roger. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the original Constitution, Magna Carta, was between the barons and King John. It didn't concern the peasants, you and I.
Mm.
And then, of course, you got the extra obfuscation of the 1297 Magna Carta, which is actually what's in force today. And when you mix all these things together, you know, there's little wonder that people believe that Magna Carta is not relevant anymore. But it is. The 1297 is, even though there are only 4 of the clauses left in it. The main one is the trial by jury. Anyway,
Okay,
so
thank you, Roger. I think you make an interesting point with the countries thing. We've seen a lot of new nations, haven't we? And countries being renamed and all the rest of it. That also I'm starting to realize when we looked at the England stuff, forming a new nation, is another sleight of hand used by the globalists, is to sort of jiggle the borders a little bit, call something different, and the constitution of the old country no longer applies. So by putting us into the UK and making that the national government, if you like, making it a country instead of England, you can then argue that the English stuff is now obsolete, which I think is something that is a bit, I haven't quite got my head around it, but I can see a lot of new nations have been created, and I think some of it is to that end. They had strong traditions, constitutions, and legal systems, and it was easier to sort of form a new nation and start from scratch than to infiltrate those strong systems. We saw that quite a lot after the Second World War, didn't we? A whole lot of new nations in Europe being created for the convenience of a globalist agenda. Okay, it is after 1 o'clock, so if we can make these two at this point quick, Chris. And did Conrad want to come in as well? I saw your hand up at some point, Conrad. Not too bothered. Okay, so Chris.
Yeah, just carrying on from what you were saying there, Lynn. Basically, they don't want sovereignty anymore. Sovereign nations was used by the globalists for so long because it benefited their agenda. The agenda's moved on. We're in a digital age now. They want a one world government. They don't want any sovereignty. They don't even want individual sovereignty. Yeah. It's not just a national thing. It's even your own soul, your own thoughts. And the scary thing, Elon Musk, I mean, I'd watch Elon Musk like a hawk. I wouldn't trust him. He's got this Neuralink agenda. He's planning to integrate biology with technology, which is basically us having chips fitted inside us. They want to see what we're thinking, and they want to control what we're thinking. This isn't just a crazy conspiracy theorist. If you look into it,
the thing is, Chris, that if we actually get really high vibe and really get into things, there are a whole lot of people who find that they can perhaps not think every detail, but can actually sense what people are thinking and doing. So this actually is probably something that exists within us anyway.
Oh, through the ESP, through extrasensory
through our extrasensory perceptions. So it's a bit like everything they do. It's like everything they do is like an off-note dystopian version of what we can already do. So they're 15-minute cities. Yes, we want like little communities and things like that, which would effectively be a 15-minute city, but they always miss the point, or the point they want to get rid of is that these things are done with free will, which is a very different energy to being forced to do things. So and you know, obviously they want to control our thoughts and control our everything and read what we're thinking so they can control us, which is a very different energy to being able to be open and sensitive so that you can adapt your behavior of your own energy.
It is a spiritual battle, because they're basically like trying to drive their agenda spiritually.
They look the same, don't they? In some ways there's similarities, but they're so extreme in the energy behind them. Sorry, carry on.
No, I agree entirely, Lynn. It's a case of we've got to outthink them. We've got to outsmart them. We've got to keep our energy positive, like Rachel was saying, like yourself was saying, like Julie says. And I do think it is rattling them. It really is rattling the cabal, the globalists. So. They don't like it.
Absolutely. But so just by, I mean, like I've been saying for a while, it's sort of the easiest war ever, because, you know, we haven't got to be out with pitchforks or guns or something. We've got to be happy. Oh my God, what a price. You know, they've got to be happy and love each other. I mean, that's incredible, but that's actually what it is. It's, in some ways it's really hard because we see these things on TV, the news and all the rest of it. And we see them and we obviously feel outrage and everything. So in some ways, they've found a weapon that really works, you know, and it is the media. The media is a massive weapon for us. So, but we basically just got to, you know, ignore them and keep ourselves really, really high energy, keep our thoughts high, stop, you know, keep loving each other anyway. and then we win. It's
Yeah.
So in some ways the easiest, but in some ways, you know, we are people, so
we shall get there.
Anyway, well, thank you very much, everybody. Loads of really good points in there. It's been great to see you, and thank you for being with us this year. Nice, so good to be all together. And I think we're ready to say happy Christmas, happy solstice, and we'll see you in the new year, see what it brings. Okay. Anybody, anything to add before we go? No? Lovely. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. If we can stop recording, please, Rachel.